Let's talk about halter. Halter is the most important class for a breeder when it comes to miniature horses. What is halter? Halter is a conformation show, so how the horse is put together and how they move and how well they adhere to the standard of perfection. When we're dealing with halter, we want our horse to look its very, very best. When I was first starting out with halter, it was so overwhelming. I watched videos of these horses with their beautiful swan necks arching out, looking so glamorous, and these people made it look easy. I'm here to tell you it's not easy, okay? Not easy at all. But I have learned some tips and tricks that I'm gonna share with you so that your first year you don't end up making your horse look like a stick horse, okay? I did that. Yeah, that was me. So starting out in a halter class, you're going to be lined up in a certain area, waiting for the judges to call you forward. So it is really important here to make sure that you are still looking your best and you're still showing your horse. While the judges may not be focused on you, you never know when they're gonna glance over and be like, oh, who that? You know? Okay, always be looking good. From that position, the judges will call you forward and you will walk your horse up to where the judges are standing, smile, show your horse, and then you will trot away from the judges so the judges can see your horse move from all angles. And then you will be lined up wherever you're directed to do so, and that is where you start to show your horse. Okay, so that is the movement portion. Now that is AMHR, and in AMHA, there is a portion where you show the teeth. I'm not gonna get into that because really I'm just talking about setting your horse up for the halter once we are in that final lineup. So here I am with Duke in my imaginary halter class. I am running away from my beautiful judges and going into my imaginary lineup. So my goal here is to have Duke set up so all of his feet are square, meaning that they're all in line with one another, showing off his very correct conformation. Now you'll see that I am asking him to stretch his neck up and out. So we don't want it too much up and we don't want it too much out. We want it up and then out, showing off a beautiful swan-like impression. So the video of Duke shows a horse that is already pretty experienced with his halter setup. So what does it look like with a less experienced horse? Here is Amber. Amber has shown once, but not very well because she was with me and we didn't have any practice. So what I'm doing here is I am using a crop to gently tap her chest so she backs away from me. And then I am making myself smaller and asking her to come forward. And we're just repeating that over and over and over again because repetition will build the memory for the horse. So as Amber's backs up and comes forward, she starts to naturally square her feet up, which is what I want. When I see that her feet are square, this is when I start asking for the neck reach. So this is starting to look really nice, a lot better than what she was before I started doing the backing up and going forward. This is just repetition, repetition, repetition. We are trying to ask her to lift from her shoulder and then just lightly reach her nose out without shifting her entire body forward. So if this is square and her neck is independent of this, she has to be able to reach her neck forward, up and out, without moving square. So what you'll see a lot of the time is that the horse kind of turns to go like this as their neck reaches out that way. So this is what we want to train against. You can see Amber's doing it here. She's really stretching her whole body. So we want her to stay square, but stretch that neck. And that is a lot of backing up when she starts moving too far forward, just so she understands the very, very subtle nuances of performing in the halter class. here's a photo of Amber that I made a markup of what she is doing in the photo that I would like to improve on. So you can see that if we're looking at this being square, her front end is just a little bit tilted out as she's stretching. So we want to keep those front legs completely square and have her stretch without stretching out that shoulder. So then the next thing is she's not holding equal weight on both of her hind hooves. So what I'd like to do is have her maintain that equal balance on both feet at the back. I'm not super picky about that one foot being a little bit further back. I think it still looks really pretty, but in a perfect world, we would have all 4 feet equal with one another. Lastly, I would like to see her nose tipped just slightly downward, so it showed off a really pretty throat latch. It's really hard to tell when they're fuzzy like this, but Amber actually has a very, very tight throat latch, and tilting her nose out and down just a tiny little bit would be chef's kiss. So lastly, the next thing I want to work on in training all of my horses actually is the space between us. Ideally, we are doing all of this with a much wider gap between handler and horse so that the judge can truly focus on the horse. If my elbow is blocking her nose, that's a piece of her that he didn't get to see. So the more space and the more that horse just glows on its own, the better of an impression that your judge will have. Next up, we have Chico, who's an even more inexperienced yearling. And Chico is really being built from the ground up here. So we're doing a lot of pressure. So moving him away from pressure and giving in to pressure and that sort of thing. So he's not backing up straight, but he's backing up. So we're slowly trying to improve over time. At first, he's backing up all sorts of ways, and then slowly he starts to back up more straight and come forward more straight, and it just starts to look a little bit better, a little bit better, and a little bit better. So as we go through these exercises, eventually Chico will start to respond and know exactly what he's doing, so that when it comes time for the show ring, he is looking how he's supposed to when he's not doing circles. So here you can see Chico and I did a little practice run of what it would actually be like in a show, and look at how great he did. This is one of his first times doing any of it, and little man did awesome. So I can't wait to see what he looks like as he progresses doing these exercises more and more often. It's honestly just a matter of repetition, repetition, repetition. I try and keep the training session super short so that the horse can get a quick win and feel good about it. I don't want to work them for hours and hours, especially when they're young like this, because they don't have the attention span to really, comprehend too much. I'm still learning how to set up my halter horses, and these are just some tips and tricks that I have learned recently that have shown to be a massive improvement in my horses, and I hope that you can take them and implement them and see some similar improvements that I did. So if you liked this video and you found it useful, please boop that subscribe button and maybe give me a like, comment if you are gonna try these. I would love to hear from you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye.